Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome to you as well.
It's the 44th episode
44th episode?
of Off the Record.
Wow.
Eventually we'll get to 300.
And then I'm out. I'm out.
And then we're quitting. That'll be the last episode, number 300.
Did you watch any of the NFL Combine? The Underwear Olympics, as some people like to call it.
Yeah, I watched some of it.
There's this guy, and I know we got plenty of true crime stuff to talk about, but I just want to mention this because I just got to say it out loud because it seems crazy. There's this dude, DK Metcalf. He's a wide receiver, and he is like 1% body fat is what he checked in at, or maybe under that, if that's even possible. But they have to bench 225 pounds, and they count the reps, and it goes on your resume to get into the NFL. And I think he did 28 reps, which is a tie for the record by a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Wide receivers typically don't lift a lot of weight.
But doesn't he come from a family with running backs and wide receivers? And
He may. I don't know a lot about the guy other than he's like a physical specimen. Like he's the one that you should like put a poster of him on your wall somewhere to inspire you to work out.
Yeah. I saw him run his 40, which was pretty fast. Not as fast as Campbell, though.
Okay. Yeah, they were worried about his 40 time because of just his muscle mass.
Mm-hmm. But what's funny to me is Nick Bosa, which arguably could be the first pick of the draft to go to Arizona. They were saying his combine might suck. Like his numbers just might not.
That was the prediction, that his combine might suck?
Yeah, but I believe his, other than like the weightlifting and stuff like that, I believe his brother's numbers aren't great. But basically, they're like, so these numbers matter on some level, but then you got somebody like a freak of nature, Nick Bosa, that when he actually plays, he does what he's supposed to do, and then the numbers don't line up.
Well, and then he beat all of his brother's numbers, is what I saw. Beat all of Joey's numbers. But, like you said, it doesn't really 100% translate into NFL success, because I was curious about when I saw the DK Metcalf put up 28 reps at 225, which I've never lifted 225, tried to bench press it once ever. I couldn't. But
that's maybe something you can work towards this year.
Well, I wanted to see like what other records they had for reps at 225. Right. And there's some dudes that have put up like 54, 56 reps. I can't remember the exact number that's the record. But they're all the dudes at the top of that list, you've never heard of them as an NFL player. So
they're big and strong, and
yeah. And Joey Bosa may have had terrible numbers, but I mean he's already proven in the NFL that he's a dominant player. I mean, he's a game changer.
Well, and that's the thing is, though, you have the eye test, and you always have the eye test. And if you pass the eye test, well, then what are your numbers? But again, somebody like Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa, they pass the eye test with flying colors. Right. That you don't care what their numbers are. So it's pretty interesting. So, yeah, that was going on this weekend. UFC this weekend.
College basketball is so interesting right now.
Yeah. I watched that Tennessee game, which was good. The Ohio State game was awful.
Yeah, yeah.
I was preparing for our, actual show, and I don't know how it happened. I was playing a little guitar, like got done like with most of the stuff. I was taking a little break, and I fell down this rabbit hole last night, and it was one of those rabbit holes where you start falling down the rabbit hole and you actually think that what you are hearing or reading or whatever you're looking into is fake.
Okay.
That it's just made up. And Alex Jones was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and that's been like a big controversy because he's knocked off all the platforms, and Joe finally had him back, and it's an insane episode. But what's interesting is he does bring up some things that on the surface just sounds like complete wackadoo nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have people looking this up why he is talking about
they're
it.
like fact checking as he's just rambling.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that they're bringing up, this was stuff that was reported in like the American Science Journal.
Oh.
So it's not like
it sounds like a reputable place,
right? And this is a crime. So I want to talk about.
We're going to talk about something they were talking about.
No, but it felt the same way when like I first started watching a couple videos on this case,
mm-hmm.
and I just thought, well, this is not right. This is made up. This doesn't even sound right. And why haven't I heard more about this? But that's kind of what happens with, I think, some of the crazier news.
Right.
So Otto Warmbier. Otto Warmbier
Is a person's name.
Yes, he was a student. He was an American student. He's from Cincinnati, Ohio, which is about an hour and a half away from us. He attended high school, did well, was popular. I believe he was second in his class.
Okay.
But he actually gave a speech. So I don't know if they have like the valedictorian give a speech and the second person. Or if the valedictorian, like, I think when I graduated, we didn't have the valedictorian do a speech because he was, some 16-year-old prodigy kid that didn't want to give the speech.
Okay.
So it went to the next person. So he gave this great speech. You can see that online. He ends up going to the University of Virginia, and he's studying a double major in commerce and economics, and he's doing a foreign exchange program through the London School of Economics, and then a minor in global stability. Now, what's interesting is he's actually going to China to study some programs there.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing a lot of stuff. And he was 22 at the time, 21, 22 at the time. So he is traveling all over the world. He went to like Ecuador. He went, like I said, China. And he decides that he wants to go to North Korea. And when he goes to... So he's in Hong Kong completing like a study abroad program.
Mm-hmm.
Gets it where he can take this trip to North Korea, and it's going to be about $1,400, which is really not that bad.
But he's already in Hong Kong.
Right. But it's for like 5 days, 7 days.
Okay.
And it's through, I'm trying to find where it says, because it was like one of these like through YouTube and all these stuff where it's like, come travel with us and take this, the tour of North Korea with this company. It's like,
it almost sounds like one of those group tours.
Yeah, but this was more for students. Okay. This was like, and they promote it as like, this is the tour your mom doesn't want you to go on. Right? And
I can agree with that.
Right. And so
this is the tour I don't want you to go on. We're talking about going to North Korea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't vacation in Baghdad. Right. There's just some places that I not only do I have no desire to go, I have a strong desire to stay the hell away from.
It's funny because it keeps on saying this tour group. I'm just looking this up on Wikipedia. So I ended up watching this like 2-part series on it. And then I end up watching these other interviews with his parents. Then I end up, and we'll get into the other stuff.
Did you find all the stuff on YouTube? Is
yeah,
that where
but
you found it?
But this is all reported by like ABC, CNN.
Okay.
So there's probably a lot of people that are going, you didn't hear about this, you idiot. No, I was working on the show. So I'm normally in the dark about a lot of this stuff.
This like recent events that you're going to be hitting me with here?
Well, no, it's 2017.
Okay.
So almost a year ago, but it's okay. So let's get into it. So he decides that he's going to go from Hong Kong to North Korea. He's a part of this tour group. Young Pioneer Tours is what it's called.
Okay.
And their slogan is, "This is the trip your parents don't want you to take."
Right.
And the stuff that they take them to, they had a breakdown on ABC where it was like they went here first and they went here first. Now, none of this was like they explained to you how to behave. They explain to you, don't do this, don't do that.
Right. They bring you up to speed, like on the customs and stuff, like you know.
Well, and their laws are way different because you have this regime that you can't like make fun of.
Mm.
You couldn't like, let's say there was a statue of Kim Jong, right?
Right.
You couldn't like
the supreme leader.
You couldn't like go up
himself.
and like kiss the statue and take a picture.
Okay.
You could be arrested for that.
Okay.
Now, look, every country has the right to have its own laws, and you should have. Then, when you go to that country, you should obey by those laws. Mm-hmm. But here's where it gets creepy to me. So they're staying at this hotel called the Yanggakdo International Hotel. Now, mainly, this hotel is for, like congressmen.
Like diplomats and stuff would go there? Okay.
So, very strange thing about, let me spell this, Yanggakdo, because you want to look up some other stuff just about this hotel. So, it's Yanggakdo. International Hotel. Mm-hmm. So that's where they're staying. And this hotel is super strange. It doesn't have a fifth floor.
Is 5 a bad number over there? Like,
don't know.
Because here there's a lot of buildings that don't have a 13th floor.
Right. So technically there is a fifth floor, and it's smaller. Mm-hmm. So like the other ones have taller ceilings. This one is smaller. Well, like I think it was 2011 or so, there was American tourists that got into the fifth floor and videotaped it. And
wait. So there is a fifth floor, or some believe that there's actually a fifth floor.
Yeah. And they claim that they use it for like security and all that stuff. But if you want to go to the dark side, it's like, this is for security, but this is also, they're bugging your rooms and they're allowed to do this. So it's their government, but they're bugging these rooms to hear what the people are talking about, blah, blah, blah. And so the video footage that you see of the fifth floor, again, it's real small. So like maybe the ceilings are, let's say, 7 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And there's all this propaganda on the walls, like we're the best country. There's some signs that have giant bombs that say USA on them, like they're going to bomb us. Mm-hmm. And so he's traveling with this group, the Young Pioneer Tours. He has a roommate that's quite a bit older. He says that the whole time on the trip, that Otto is a super nice kid, super smart, having a lot of fun. He's not rowdy. And they go to the airport and they're going to leave. And then all of a sudden he was arrested. He got a tap on the shoulder, and 2 guards came, simply tapped Otto on the shoulder and led him away.
Was he the only American in this group? Or do you, I mean, if you don't know, you don't know.
I'm not for sure.
But it's a group of people, and he's the only one that's arrested.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then his roommate said, jokingly, well, that's the last time we see you. Just kind of making a joke.
Right.
Well, Otto kind of, he didn't resist. He didn't look scared. He sort of half smiled. So then what the North Korean government says is that Otto did get to the 5th floor after a night of drinking, that he was dressed in black, and he was pulling down one of the propaganda signs. Now, where it gets interesting is they show you the footage, and you can't tell if it's him or not.
Right.
And a lot of people actually believe that it was this other guy in the group. And there's he has all these pictures with the group, from traveling and being a tourist. And there's all these pictures of him playing with North Korean kids, doing snowball fights and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they claim that he tried to pull down this poster and that he was trying to smuggle it out of the country. Again, I think it's strange that he gets tapped on the shoulder and he doesn't seem nervous at all.
Yeah.
And he just kind of goes. Well,
but I mean, he could have. I mean, there's a chance that it could just be a made video to claim that Otto went to the 5th floor.
Right.
It didn't even have to be somebody in the group. It could just be total conspiracy. Somebody else staged this thing and said, well, if the U.S. reaches out and we need a reason for why we've taken this person captive, we need to be able to show them something and go, oh, look, no, he did this while he was here. This is no good. We're going to lock him up.
Yeah. So then he gets interrogated. That's probably not the correct word. He's probably tortured at some point, is what I'm guessing. So then he confesses to doing it, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Well, and here's the thing. Torture is a horrible way to go about questioning or interrogating anyone, because most people, if not damn near everyone, at some point they're going to give in and just say they did whatever you are accusing them of to hopefully stop whatever you're doing to them. You're not going to get to the truth by applying pain to people.
Yeah. I mean, they say it's not known whether the confession was forced or not. So there's 2 videos of him that I could find. There's possibly more. But there's one that's about 30 minutes long where he goes into great detail on this confession. And it sounds like something that Alex Jones would make up.
Mm-hmm.
He starts talking about how this Methodist church in his hometown, that one of his friend's mothers was like, hey, we're a part of this organization and we go into countries that, especially communist countries, and we try to spread Christianity, and we will give you, I think he needed a car or something, and she's like, we'll give you a car that's worth $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to bring back one of these, propaganda posters, and we'll give you $10,000. But if they capture you, then, and now mind you, the first video that you see him is a month after being there. I mean, he's arrested and nobody sees him for a month. And I think the next one was a month after that.
Okay.
So he's arrested at roughly two months at this point, and he's saying, hey, this lady at this church, and why is this church important? Well, they donated a bunch of money to President Obama, and that's why that they're so important. And all these people come through Cincinnati, they stop there, and they're, heavily influencing the United States government. But it's just so strange. But if you're captured, if they detain you, well, we're going to give $200,000 to your family. And it's all this nonsense, too, about like how his family is so poor and all this stuff. It's just like, and that is nonsense. His parents are, not.
They're not poor.
They're not, but they're not rich, but they're not poor.
They're middle-class people.
Right.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is, his parents were giving him some extra money. Like, he had some money to go on the trip. The parents gave the extra money. I mean, they're helping him go to college. So, not poor. And so then he says, well, they're going to give them $200,000. Now, that sounds nuts. But the other thing that sounds nuts is he's saying that was an obligation that he had with his family. That if his brother and sister were going to go to college, that he had to come up with $200,000. Never heard of that before. You know what I mean? Like, been in America a long time. I don't know one friend of mine that went to college and then had to pay for their brothers and sisters' college. You see what I mean?
I've actually heard of that before, but I don't think it's not common in any way at all. I have heard that, but it's a very small percentage of people.
But the whole premise was that their family was so poor,
right?
So that's strange. But what's really strange is then he starts talking about the Z Society, which is a secret society.
And this is Otto,
yeah,
telling us this.
And this is like, I think it's like about 40 minutes. You can watch the whole thing. He basically comes out, he lays out everything that happened, and then they have people ask questions. And the way they do so is so strange because whoever asks the question, then this person that's sitting beside Otto will then go into more detail. It's almost like it's staged.
Who's the person sitting next to him?
It's almost like the judge.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So he's confessing, and then he's like, hey, if you have any questions, and then they ask questions to Otto. Sometimes he answers, but after he answers, the person goes into bigger detail because they're really trying to connect this church to our government. And then this secret society, the Z Society, which is a secret society at the University of Virginia, which they claim that he wanted to join. And they're allies with the CIA, which, if you look into the Z Society, as far as Virginia goes, it's kind of like skull and crossbones,
right?
Type of idea. And so that's the other whole thing, that like by doing this, that he was going to get ahead, and because guys with good grades, they can get super great paying jobs once they're done. But to get into the Z Society, you have to do some sort of bravery. So this would be his act. And this is what he's saying. This is what Otto's confessing to. But again, it keeps talking about how he's in cahoots with the government. Like this church is in cahoots with the government. The Z Society's in cahoots with the government. They're in cahoots with the CIA. So therefore, I am. Right?
Right.
So, so a lot of people then think that all this stuff was just written for him.
He's brainwashed.
Well,
Which is a speculation.
No, not even that he's brainwashed. That it's just, and this happens with terrorist groups all the time. Let's take somebody hostage and then we make them read this thing.
Right.
And you'll see people say, I was arrested because I was doing blah, 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 blah. And they weren't doing anything. But they have to admit it or they're going to get killed. So it gets strange because then this happens, I think, at the start of, or at the end of Obama's terms. But Obama and our regime says to the parents, hey, we can't make a big deal about this. We're going through these back doors. We're going to try to work this out. Because he was basically sentenced to like 10 to 15 years of like manual labor.
Oh, great.
Yeah, for
something we're not convinced he actually did.
Yeah, we don't know for sure. We have video footage, but we don't know it's him. There is no trial. Now you're getting this guy to confess in this super strange way and talking about these secret societies and blah, 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 right? And it's strange. It's bizarre. And if you watch his confession, it's strange. And there's a couple points where when they're walking him, they're holding his arms, but you see his arms like down in front of him, handcuffed. They're almost like not moving properly. You know, kind of how like Weekend at Bernie's when they're carrying Bernie. Mm-hmm. It's almost like he has like these goofy arms. Yeah, you have to watch the footage it's very strange. Like to me, I think there's evidence that there's something going on with his legs and his arms. And then he does this crying, you know, like, think about my family, and people say that's acting. I don't know if it's acting, but if it's acting, it makes sense because it is so bizarre, and maybe he's just a bad actor, but it's just so bizarre. And there was like a couple times like he gets up and I don't know if he bows, but it's very strange.
He's the young man that they had on. I'm making a guess here, so tell me if you think I'm right or wrong. But is he the young man that was in a suit and they're like walking him out of what appears to be maybe a court or some kind of press conference? Or
yeah,
okay,
I remember the confession. Yeah,
okay, I remember seeing because they played them walking him out of that on just about every news station, kind of repeatedly. And all I really remember of it is it was a scary image to see them walking him out because he doesn't appear to be leaving on his own in any way. Like the brain's not firing on all, you know what I mean? Like his body's not responding.
Yeah. And it's strange though too, because he's obviously intelligent. So like when he's giving the confession and he's answering questions, he's very polite. He's very like his brain is together at that point. Mm-hmm. So he's basically, I think, arrested, and after that time, I think nobody sees him. And I'm trying to think. Let me look this up real quick. So they have the CCTV footage. And they claim fingerprint evidence, witness testimony. He was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. Human Rights Watch called the hearing a kangaroo court. Oh. And they described the sentencing as outrageous and shocking. Again, you're trying to steal a poster, which they caught you. If they did catch you, then you got the poster back. And also, just produce the poster. Show us that whatever you think he was trying to steal that you have. Mm-hmm. Because if he did steal it and he's in line to leave the country, then, would see that. So that's on March 18th. And again, there's a brief low-resolution video, timestamped 1:57 a.m. A figure moves a poster from a corridor wall and places it on the floor, leaning against the wall. The footage released does not display any other events. So then he claims that during his confession that he abandoned the poster after discovering it was too large to carry away. So you got a guy that graduated second in his class. You don't think he thought of that before he tried to steal it?
Right.
So it's just super strange. But
is there any chance that he is being talked about by people that people in power? Like, because we've been having or attempting to have some talks with North Korea. You would think that his name, and I'm sure there might be other people as well, but when you try to extend the olive branch and have some kind of decent relationship with countries that you've not got along with, sometimes you'll make a request. Hey, can you release this guy to us as an act of good faith?
Right. So they end up releasing Otto Warmbier. What a name. Warmbier. Not cold beer, Warmbier. But they release him and I believe 3 others. Well, here's where it gets even more fucked up.
All right. When you say they release them to us, to the United States.
Yeah. But the problem is when they're taking Otto off the plane, he is not coherent at all. They basically, as they're releasing him to us, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, he's in a coma.
Oh, okay. So it was the same guy, and that's the footage I remember seeing. The news footage.
But then the dad talks about like when before they brought him off the plane, that he heard like these noises coming from the plane, and he could see that his son was like held down in restraint and like has restraints on him, but he's making almost like animal noises. And he thought, what the hell's going on? Well, but he's in a coma, and their whole thought was now he's going to be back in Cincinnati. We're going to get him the treatment that he needs. He's in a coma, but hey, he's here. We're going to be able to take care of this. He's going to get out of the coma, and everything will be fine, right? So they give some speeches. They're optimistic. They're emotional, obviously, but they're optimistic. Well, six days later, he dies.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I remember this.
But here's where it gets even.
Were they able to find anything in his system? Like, because I believe that the speculation was that they were injecting him with something.
Well, so what the Korean government says is, oh, well, coma, we think it's botulism, right? And so you can contract this from like food, airborne too, but they think they got it from food. And then what that does is it's like a really bad disease where it starts eating your brain tissue and you start losing function of your arms, your legs, your sight, everything.
What they were saying, if I remember correctly, they were kind of giving the old, well, he was fine when we had him. Weren't they kind of saying that? Like,
they're trying to say that he's in a coma because of botulism.
Right.
And then we do all these studies and we go, oh, well, there is no link. There is no sign of botulism.
Okay.
I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Sounds right.
But yeah, so the whole thing was that he fell into a coma after taking some sleeping pills. I don't think that's correct at all. So then there was this idea that they fed him certain drugs, and those drugs would have been drugs that would have basically deteriorated his brain cells and his brain tissue. And the more brain tissue that you destroy, then eventually, I mean, the doctors here said he didn't even recognize language. That he also didn't recognize them as being like human. Like, they're talking to him. There's no recognition.
Right.
And then he ends up dying, like I said, 6 days later. And now you have Trump that says, well, I talked to Kim Jong and he says he didn't know anything about it. That's possible. I don't put that past him. You're the head of this country. Do you know of everything that's happening?
Right.
Probably not. But you're allowing these people to do this stuff anyways. So whether or not you knew about this one case, you know that this stuff is happening.
Oh yeah.
And but the other, I mean, some of the details, like when the parents say when they pulled him off the plane, the mom could see her son's bottom teeth, and she said it looked like they were twisted with pliers. So what is it? And it's so crazy because, I mean, you have a human that is not even understanding that a language is being spoken to him.
Right.
Not even recognizing it as anything. And how does this guy go from a super intelligent kid to 18 months in captivity to so brain dead that he ends up dying 6 days after they release him?
Mm-hmm.
And it's back in the news now because, and maybe that's what, struck YouTube to say, hey, check this story out. And I want to dive into it more. I mean, I don't know all the little details. Like I said, I watched a bunch of these like 1-part, 2-part things on YouTube, but I also watched the whole confession, which was, I believe, like 37 minutes long. But it's just so crazy. And then when you bring into this whole Z society and this, Methodist church, and that stuff sounds so made up, but at the same time, there is a Z society at University of Virginia. There is a Methodist church in this whole town that is a very wealthy church. Mm-hmm. So it's strange, and you have this kid that's super bright, and he's traveling a lot. But again, we're going to send our best and brightest over there to steal a poster. You know what I mean? If you want to learn about things, if you want to do some damage to this regime, you're not going to steal a poster. I mean, What's this poster going to do? Oh, see, look, I showed you this poster. That's the easiest thing to dismiss. I mean, you can even have footage of you stealing the poster from a wall, and people could say, hey, somebody put that poster on that wall, and you took it down. Or you put that poster up on the wall and then took it down. You see what I'm saying? Like a poster in North Korea of them saying that they hate America or Americans. That's not, what's that going to do? You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to spark this outrage where we go, hey, we might go to war with you. Mm-hmm. But this kid's death, you want to talk about some outrage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The death of this kid, that's outrage. And we've seen in this country, when there's a tragedy and there becomes outrage, that sometimes leads to people throwing up their hands and saying, hey, if you want war, you got war. So it's a very interesting case, and anybody that hasn't really dove into it, I'd say, if you're bored sitting around and you want to dive into something it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating to watch the confession and to watch the tapes of this kid and then the parents as well, especially the parents now, because the parents were they were trying to be as respectful as possible. Now they're going, look, this is ridiculous.
Right.
This is these guys are responsible for our son's death.
Yeah.
I think that
there should be some consequence for this happening.
Yeah, they filed a lawsuit against them, against North Korea. They won the lawsuit, but again, I believe they did. But that doesn't mean anything. They're not going to make, you know what I mean? They're not going to make anybody pay.
Well, yeah.
It's like, yeah, they want some legal thing over here, but what does that mean?
Right.
17 months total in prison. But such a sad story, and especially coming from a kid from Cincinnati. And he keeps on saying Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's just during the confession, and the more he keeps saying that, the more it hits home with me, and I go, this kid's just, and this kid was an hour and a half away from us.
Yeah.
And this should be talked about more, because they've been trying to pass a law recently where you're not allowed to travel to North Korea. And I do know that the group that he was traveling with, the Young Pioneers, are not, they've had thousands upon thousands of people that they took on these tours, and nothing bad happened.
Right.
And yes, are they saying this is the tour your mom doesn't want you to go on? Whatever. they were telling people the rules. The people there were normally respectful, but now they're not even taking people over there anymore. Like,
right,
we're not even going to take the chances. I mean, this kid basically came back like a zombie, and that's very sad.
Well, and they could. I mean, if this happened once. I mean, it seems like they could just willy-nilly detain anybody they want for whatever reason they want, and then this could be the sad, terrible outcome from that, so it's horrible stuff, horrible stuff.
But it's like crazy once you start hearing that stuff about the Methodist Church, the Z Society. It's like, is there anything to that? It doesn't make any sense. But then it's like, is North Korea making him say this, and why? You know what I mean? Like, why would they make him say stuff like that?
Well, I mean, really, there's what, 3 possible, explanations for this. Either A, this is something he actually believed and was something that there might be some truth to, or B, this is something that was fed to him by his captors,
right,
to repeat and to go into detail about, and that's what I think we probably should lean toward that as being the explanation, because as you said, there's like a handler there with him, filling in the blanks and adding to the story. Or C, your third explanation could be, is this a hallucination that he does believe, but it created by whatever poison they're pumping through his veins?
Yeah. Yeah, or they're saying, hey, why did you do this? And he said, I didn't. Well, why did you do this? I didn't. Oh, let's feed you some more drugs. I didn't. Oh, why did I do this? Oh, well, there's a secret society at the University of Virginia. One of the things I thought was funny was he said that when he was a freshman, when he started school, is when he first learned about the secret society. And I thought, if it's so secret, this is probably not something you'd learn the first quarter that you're in school, or the first semester you're in school, if it's so secretive. But it is interesting if you do look up University of Virginia, as we talk about college basketball coming up. On the University of Virginia, on the campus, you'll see Z's everywhere. There's on steps. They're hidden in plain sight almost. And so but I think people also don't deny that there is it a secret society? Maybe not. Maybe it's more of this skull and crossbones, but definitely it was a rabbit hole that I dove down and I couldn't get out of. So